Welcome to the Tarot Card Catalogue, a brand new podcast where we pair one tarot card with one myth, legend, or folktale and ask how each changes the way we read the other. I'm Danielle Christmas. And today we're starting with the Five of Cups and following it into the story of La Llorona. All right, let's launch this podcast with the Five of Cups. Now, there are a lot of different traditions within tarot, but the most popular and prolific tradition in the English language world is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, along with the decks that derive from it. So that's the imagery and tradition we'll be using today. In the traditional image of the Five of Cups, we see a cloaked figure with their back to us, standing outside near some kind of stream or river. Beside them are 3 cups, all knocked over. Whatever was inside them is spilled out. The figure's head is bowed, which makes it clear we're looking at grief or sadness or some kind of quiet contemplation of loss. But if you look behind that figure, you'll notice something they can't see. There are 2 cups still standing, still full. Remember, we're looking for 5 cups total, 3 spilled, 2 intact. But those 2 are out of the figure's line of sight, as if they're so consumed by what's been lost that they can't turn around and notice what remains. That gives us a pretty clear picture. If cups represent our feelings, our meaning, the things we care about, and we're only able to see the ones that have spilled, there's some kind of tunnel vision to that grief, an isolating sadness. That's the traditional read. Loss, yeah, but also a failure to notice what's still there. And the card invites us to ask what it would mean to turn around. So that's the traditional meaning. Now let's set that aside for a moment and talk about the story that I think deepens it. In Hispanic folklore, there's a legend about a figure called La Llorona, the weeping woman. Depending on who's telling it, the details shift, but the shape of the story stays the same. This is a ghost story about a grieving mother. The legend goes something like this. A woman is betrayed by her husband or lover, the father of her children. Out of rage, jealousy, grief, or some combination of all of these, she drowns her own children at the river's edge, maybe to punish him, maybe because her own pain becomes unbearable and unmanageable. And this isn't where the story ends. Since then, as the legend has it, she wanders the water at night, weeping, and she comes for other children in the dark. Misbehave and La Llorona might come for you. Her despair, the story warns us, is contagious. It doesn't stay contained to her. Now, here's where I want to push on the connection to the Five of Cups. Notice that La Llorona isn't the cloaked passive figure standing over the water with 2 hidden cups behind her. We're inclined to believe that the cloaked figure that we are used to seeing, the one in the traditional card, didn't spill the cups or isn't reflecting on their agency in having done that. They're dealing with cups that were spilled, managing grief that happened to them. La Llorona is different. She's the one who spilled her own cups at the water's edge. She's the one who took her children's lives literally at the side of a river. Yeah, she's a weeping woman, and yes, the legend tells us her grief and rage begin with her husband's betrayal. But the weeping in this story goes on long after that. It becomes the eternal grief of having lost her children, the children she drowned herself. She's the one who knocked those cups over. And now, according to the legend, she exists in this unending, timeless despair, one she can't contain within herself, so she spreads it, pushing her pain onto any child she happens to find. Does this story support the traditional read of the Five of Cups? Not exactly, and that's kind of the point, because this is the figure who spilled the cups. She permanently severed herself from the deepest, truest kind of love she had. Romantic love is transitory. We wish it weren't. We fantasize about partnerships that never end, but we know deep down that they can end. The bond between parent and child is different. It's sacrosanct, permanent, even when it's distorted or damaged. So the loss here isn't the loss of a lover who chose to leave. It's the grief of a severed connection to your own blood, something sacred, and there's no putting that life back into a body once it's gone. So think about those 2 full cups standing behind her. What does it mean in this version of the story for La Llorona to keep them full? The legend tells us she does it by refusing to let her pain stay hers alone. She pulls other parents into it. It's like some dark communion. She passes the cup and it never runs dry because she keeps finding another child, another family to pour her grief into. And the reason she does this, I think, is that she doesn't want to be alone at the river. That's the thing about the cloaked figure in the Five of Cups, too. They're alone at the water. Part of what makes that grief so heavy is the isolation of it. You don't have eyes in the back of your head. You may not even know those two full cups are standing there behind you. Maybe you've forgotten, or maybe you never knew in the first place. But La Llorona's solution, according to the legend, is to drag other grieving people to the water's edge with her. She wants her pain to be contagious because that's how she keeps her own two cups full. Through company, even if that company is forced or built on someone else's suffering. In a strange way, it's not really about the children at all. The children are the cups, symbols, or vessels for the loss. What she actually wants is the company of other mothers, other grievers, standing beside her at the water. So let's bring that back to the Five of Cups and see what it does to our reading. Here's what I think that retelling does for the card. It helps us notice that what matters most in the Five of Cups might not be the liquid that's spilled. It might be that the cloaked figure, head bowed, staring at the water, is alone. Maybe those two full cups would become visible if there was someone else there, an ally or a companion, someone to help you notice what's still standing and share the weight of what's spilled. There's no camaraderie in that image, no one there to hold you or empathize with your position. And maybe that's the real depth of the card's grief, not the loss itself, but the absence of support in the loss, the absence of shared sentiment. And the story of La Llorona pushes that further. It asks us to think about what we do with that isolation once we're standing in it. Is part of how we cope, how we manage that grief, an attempt to force other people into the same pain? Not seeking company in a healing sense, allies, people who can sit with us at the water, but wanting instead to be the one who spreads the poison. Is there a version of us that becomes whole again, that keeps our two remaining cups full, specifically by making our sadness someone else's problem? I think the best tarot readings treat a card as an invitation rather than something fixed. So if we read the Five of Cups through La Llorona as an invitation, here's what I think it's asking. First, it's asking us to sit with what it means to be alone in loss, whether the isolation, not the loss itself, is the real wound. Second, and this is the emotionally harder question, it's asking us to look at how we might be forcing other people to reckon with our pain. When we're the cloaked, grieving figure at the edge of the water, is part of how we cope making sure other people feel that pain too? Are we inviting help or genuinely asking someone to pull us back from the water, or forcing the same poison down someone else's throat, becoming a kind of ghost ourselves, one who finds relief not in being comforted, but in making sure our pain doesn't stay ours alone? Because there's a real difference between wanting our pain to be understood, shared, held by someone who cares about us, and wanting our pain to simply become someone else's pain too. One is support. The other is just company purchased at someone else's expense. And I think the Five of Cups read through La Llorona asks us to be honest about which one we're really looking for when we're standing at the water's edge. Okay, that's our first episode of the Tarot Card Catalog. I had a lot of fun putting this together. I hope you had fun listening. I feel wiser and more storied and deeper into my cards. Here's the thing. I love tarot and I love what it can do. The power of storytelling, of understanding our lives through the lens of the cards. But what I wanted to show today, and what I hope we did, is how reading the cards through myth, folklore, and legend can deepen our work with the archetypes themselves. So the tarot is in conversation with the legend is in conversation with us, and around it goes, a kind of trifecta, a way of reading our lives through myth with tarot as a portal and a kind of companion. Maybe that's what the tarot can be for us, the figure standing next to us at the water's edge, helping us see the two cups we couldn't see on our own. I'm Danielle, and if you'd like to explore mythology, storytelling, and tarot with me more deeply, I offer readings, courses, and mentorship through Sibyl's Lab. The link will be in the description. But until next time, my friends, I hope you find good company at the water's edge.